Hey everyone, today we are going to learn how to find the percent of any number. And we're going to do it by using multiplication. So, as a reminder, really fast, this might seem a little random, but hang with me. I want to review with you how to change a percent to a decimal. And we can do that. We know we take a decimal and we scoop it. Guess what? My notes are wrong. We don't multiply by 100. To change a percent to a decimal, we divide by 100, which means we scoop it 2 times to the left. So 15% is 15 hundredths, 18% is 18 hundredths, 95% is 95 hundredths, and 150% is 1.5. That's going to come in handy today, I promise. So what we're doing today is we are looking at problems where we have to find the part. We know the percent, we know the whole number, but we don't know the part. I've already taught you 2 ways to find these. The first way is using mental math. Do you remember those tricks where if you want to find 50% of any number, we just divide by 2, or 25% of any number, we divide it into 4, or 10% of a number, we just divide it by 10. Remember those? So that's the first strategy. Another strategy is using equivalent ratios, setting it up like this and using those different strategies to find that part. Today we're going to use multiplication. I'm going to show you a different strategy that you might like better than either of those first 2 strategies that I've taught you. So how do we use multiplication for percent problems? Well, first we have to make sure that we are finding the part. That is the only way that multiplication will work. If we know the whole, we know the percent, and we're just looking for the part, then this strategy will work. If we're given the part, but we don't know the whole, then this won't work. So be aware of that. So once you know that we are finding the part, maybe you set it up percent over 100, part over whole, and you have the whole, and you know that you're looking for a part, well, then you can do these next steps. So the first thing you'll do is change the percent to a decimal. Remember how I told you that this would come in handy? This is why. And then we multiply the decimal by the whole. And that's it. You'll get your number. So let me give you an example of this. Shoes cost $40 and we're $60 off. How much will you save? Well, I know the whole. The whole was $40, so I know I'm looking for the part that I'm going to save. So I know that, check. I'm looking for the part. That means I can change this percent into a decimal. 60% is 0.60, but get rid of that 0, just make it 0.6. It'll make it a little bit easier. And then multiply it by the whole. So I usually put the whole on top because my decimal is usually a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to remember how to multiply by decimals, and that's the same as just multiplying any regular numbers. So that will be 240. The only thing I now have to remember is if there is one number behind the decimal, there's also going to be one number behind the decimal. I scoop it that many in, correct? So you will save $24 if shoes are 60% off and the whole shoes cost $40. That, if we go through those steps, is what you can do for any percent problem. So if you want to find 50% of 80, well, you just change 15% to 15 hundredths, change it to the decimal, and multiply away. 5 times 0, 5 times 8. Then make sure that if you're going to times by a second number, that you remember to add that 0 right there. 1 times 0, 1 times 8, and you'll get this, but because there are 2 numbers behind those decimals, you'll be 2 numbers in, and you will get, guys, what is 5 times 0? It is not 5. It's 0. Erase, Mrs. Matson. Let's try that again. This is what I get for trying to make these videos too short and trying to just rush through them super fast. All right, so this looks better. 15% of 80 is 12. I will speak a little more slowly and make less mistakes. To find 20% of 150, 150 is my whole. I'm just finding the 20% part. Because I'm looking for the part, I can change 20% to a decimal, times it by my whole, and get, you're like double extra checking my work now, aren't you? And then I'm going to make sure that I scoop, and 20% of 150 is 30. That is how you can use multiplication to find the percent of any number. So if you're looking for 65% of 300, there's kind of some ways that you can check to know if your answer makes sense. For example, will this answer be more or less than 150? Well, 150 is 50%, right? 50% of 300, we're going to just divide that in half and we'll get 150. So will my answer be more or less than 150? Well, I'm not looking for 50%. I'm looking for 65%. I'm looking for more of it. So it is going to be more than 150, right? Yeah. So kind of be thinking those thoughts as you are solving these problems. What is 25% of 320? I'm going to change 25% to 25 hundredths and then times it by 320. And I'm going to get, will you check your work with me to make sure I don't make a mistake? 10, 11, 15, 16. Then I'm going to make sure I add a 0 and times everything by 2. When I add that up, I get this, but I'm going to make sure that I scoop. I get 225. Does that sound right to you? Okay, so that's finding 25% of 320. Remember, though, that I've taught you now 3 different strategies. So if you were doing this and you're like, oh, that's a lot of work, well, then think about solving it a different way. For example, do you already know how to find 25% of any number mentally? Yeah, you know that 25% of any number, we can just divide by 4, can't we? So 4 into 320, that will be 8. Ooh, this isn't looking like it's right. Let's see what happens. Guys, I think I did something wrong. I get 80. Did I do my math completely wrong? Wow, let's look again. 20 times 25. Was I going too fast again? 15, that looks right. Then add a 0. 0, 4. Guys, I added wrong. No, what did I do? 6, 7. Guys, I still made a mistake. Oh, bother. That still is 9, though. What am I doing wrong? 6, 7, 15, 16. I might have to restart this whole video if I can't figure it out. 320. Okay, so that's definitely wrong. I don't know what I was doing there. This looks a little bit better. So let me just check my work again. That's 0. That's 10. 15, 16. I'm good with all that. And then we add a 0 for that, a 0 for that. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7. So now when I add it up, 0, 0, 10, 8, 9. I get 9 though. What am I doing wrong? Friends, whatever. We'll just keep going. Find my mistake for me. Okay, let's try some more problems. 60% of 20.4 is 20.4. Then how do we change that 60% to a decimal? We make it 60. We really don't need that 0, do we? It doesn't change anything. 0 hundredths is the same as no hundredths at all. So let's just solve this as 0.6. Make that a lot easier. 0 plus 2 is 2. 12. Then let's just make sure we scoop twice. So we get 12 and 24 hundredths. Now, what if we have like a number percent greater than 100? Well, that just means that we're still going to scoop twice to make it a decimal. We're just going to have a number greater than 1 that we're going to times by 10, 11, 12. Then we add a 0, 4, 2. Add those up and scoop once. So 150% of 30. Oh, here's something else you are going to realize. If you're finding more than 100% of a number, your answer is going to be bigger than the original number you started with, right? Because 100% of 24 is 24. So if we're finding more than 100%, our answer is going to be more than 30 than what you started with. So that's another thing to think about. So if we had 60 Cache Valley Direct books, and after 2 weeks, 45% of the books were sold, how many books were sold after 2 weeks? I've already told you that you could solve any percent problem by putting that percent over 100. And then let's see, if we had a total of 60 Cache Valley Direct books, we could set it up this way, right? And from here, you could do it the equivalent ratio way. Or because you see that you're looking for the part, you can change this. Instead of doing the fraction version, you could do the decimal version. And you could times it by this. You could use multiplication instead. And that would be 27 books were sold after 2 weeks. Okay, so you kind of have the ratio way you could do it or the decimal multiplication way. Both of the ways you'll do it will give you the same answer. So if there are 30 Easter eggs hidden in your house and you found 80% of them, how many eggs did you find? So set it up. This is all of the Easter eggs, right? And you're finding the percent that you found. So you'll set it up like this. You'll see that you're looking for the part. And honestly, if you've set it up this way and you see something quick that you could do, oh, sorry, we're gonna have to call you back. Oh, it answered. Hey, buddy, I'm in the middle of a video. Can I call you back? Okay, thank you. So if you see something quick that you could do, then just do it. You'll find an answer of, you have found so far 24 eggs. If you don't see that by setting it up the ratio way, then change the percent into a decimal and times by the whole. You will still end up with 24 eggs. So today can kind of be, I want you doing it the decimal way, but I do want you kind of to start deciding which of these strategies do you like best. How could you estimate 49.3% of 3,000? What in the world? Oh, guys, look, it says estimate. Oh, that's so relieving. That means I can make it easy. Instead of 49.3%, I'm going to change that to 50% because that is so much easier than 49.3%, and it is still very close to 49%. So what is 40% of 3,000? Well, it's 1,500 because I remember that 50% of any number is just half, isn't it? So 1,500. Okay, something I want to tell you. I cannot allow you calculators at this point in 6th grade, but I do want to let you know that calculators are so useful when finding percents of a number because, oh, there went my lights. I'm here. Because you will have calculators with you wherever you go because y'all have phones or will have phones or will have calculators. So I do want to show you how to find a percent of a number. Okay, so if we have a problem like this, 15% of the 1,000 seats at a concert were sold the first hour. Well, there's a whole amount of 1,000 seats, so I can do it this multiplication way, or the way I was setting up earlier, like this, correct? On a calculator, let me show you what that would look like. I pull up this calculator here, and then I'm going to put in 0.15, that's 15%, and then times it by 1,000. And boom, I get 150. 150 seats were sold. So even though I can't let you use a calculator on a test, I am okay with you practicing with a calculator and maybe checking your work, doing it first on paper, and then checking your work with a calculator. So let's practice that. If we have, here's a question where it says, would you rather have 25% of $44 or 20% of 50? That's not dollars, but I just made it a dollar problem. If someone offered to give you 25% of the $44 that they have, or if someone else offered to give you 20% of the $50 that they had, which one would you go for? You're like, well, 25% is a larger percentage, but $44 is a lesser amount, right? 20% is lesser, but 50% is more. Which one should you go with? Well, if you have a calculator, it's going to be pretty quick because you can take 25% and times it by 44, and you can take 20% and times it by 50, and you'll have your answer rather quickly. Put it in our calculator, 0.25 times 44, that gives you $11. So this person's willing to give you $11. This person is willing to give you, I just put it in as 0.2, right? We really don't need that zero right there, times 50, and that would give us, that person's only willing to give us $10. So by putting that quickly into the calculator, you can see that 25% of 44 would be a higher amount. Okay, but wait, 25%, you could have done that a lot quicker because you know that 25% is just divide by 4. So you knew that was $11. And then with 20%, well, you know 10% of 50 is 5. So double that to make it 20%, and you know that you'd have 10%. All right, that was a lot of information. The biggest thing I want you to work on today is finding these percents of a number by changing it into a multiplication problem. So if you just go through these steps today and practice multiplying, then that will be awesome. You will be ready for the mastery check. Good luck, friends. See you next video.